Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
The coconut industry over the years contributed meaningfully to the island's economy. We can remember the many FAR vans and trucks meandering into the steep hills coming from Vieux Fort and also coming from the other end, ancillary canneries. Destination, Soufrière Copra Factory. The factory contributed to the production of processed oil, soaps, and other derivatives. Of course, the restaurants in Soufrière were buzzing because the number of farmers in Soufrière on that day had to eat, so there was breakfast, there was lunch. Going back to the communities, they went to the shops, and of course the monies were spread all over. Contributed again meaningfully to the economy of this island. The big question is, as the song would say, where are they now? Where are the trucks, the FAR vans that were cascading down the steep slopes into Soufrière? $1 million question, or a pregnant question, where are they now? Welcome to the program, Agriculture on the Move. I am Phillip Sydney. With me in studio is Mr. Barry Innocent, who is the Deputy Director for Agricultural Services in the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Production, Fisheries, Cooperatives, and Rural Development. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sydney.
Mr. Innocent is also the coordinator for a coconut replanting project. Am I correct?
That's right.
Mr. Innocent, before we get into the replanting program, could you tell us, let's go back to the little history, what led to the demise of the coconut industry? Nothing is really happening. Farmers, no more the long lines going into Soufrière. Give us a little background into this.
As you rightly said, for a number of years, for many years, the coconut cultivation was primarily for production of copra. And this copra was primarily being marketed at the factory, which was originally manned or managed by the St. Lucia Copra Manufacturers Limited, that later changed its name to St. Lucia Coconut Growers Association. But let's look at the history, as you rightly said. What happened? Well, from my recollections, the first thing that happened was you had an aging. The coconut trees became aged. They had reached their threshold. So you're now receiving diminishing returns. Whereas a coconut in its healthy state and properly managed, you'll get about 1 to 2 tons per acre. You started to get like, I should say 5 to 7 tons per acre on a healthy field. But then what started happening, when decline happened, you started having 1 to 2 tons per acre. So the aging process, or the aging of the trees, was the first factor. The other thing that happened was the abandonment or the decline of the banana industry. You see, what used to happen is you had coconuts interplanted with bananas. Now, as the banana industry started to go down, the coconut industry also started to go down.
Why was that?
Well, when the farmers would fertilize the bananas, because the coconut trees were interplanted with it or intercropped with it, when they fertilized the bananas, the coconut got fertilized too. When they weeded the bananas, the coconut got weeded too. All the cultivation and caring practices that they did for the bananas, the coconut trees benefited from it. So as the banana industry went down, the coconut industry took a dip also. The other thing that happened was you had the problem with mite infestation. And of course, at that time, we were using, and we still are using, a lot of the Atlantic tall coconut tree, which is susceptible to mite. so it might hit us also. The other thing that happened was, as you rightly said, then since the production was not there to supply the coconut factory in Soufrière, the coconut factory eventually closed down. When it closed down now, farmers' interest in producing copra started to diminish. And then you had another thing happening, you had a different dynamic. You had the fresh coconut water industry starting to rise, because the farmer realized to pay somebody to remove the husk on the coconut and then crack open the shell, and then remove the endosperm or the white fleshy component of it, and then to pay him to do that, and then to sell it for copra, was nothing compared with having a fresh coconut water. You just slice it and you sell it for $1, $1.50. So the returns on the fresh coconut water was much higher than the copra. And so you had a orientation of farmers towards selling fresh coconut water rather than copra. And these are some of the dynamics of what happened, you know. But putting all that aside, the other thing is the Ministry of Agriculture, we considering the situation at hand, decided to bring in this program in, the coconut replanting program, to sort of replenish the coconut industry and bring in new planting material, some of them disease resistance and stuff like that, to sort of bring it up, make it come back alive again. All right? And we are through this project, the coconut replanting project, trying to endeavor to do that.
But before you get to the coconut replanting project, when the factory closed down, there were other there were coconut oil still on the supermarket shelf.
Yes.
So some persons out there saw the need to process coconut oil.
Yes.
And of course, we still have a few of them, still on the market.
Still have for like Mags.
Mags is still I think there are others. So we are still having coconut oil on us.
Yeah, there's a few cottage industry happening, which is very good. You go to the supermarkets today and you get Mags coconut oil, and there are a few other local produced coconut oil, which is very good. And in a few places, you have them also making soaps of it and different other cosmetic products. Yeah.
But the other thing, sometime last year, I'm not sure if you're aware of that program. There was a program, I think it was some organization took up on their own to carry out a survey within the Caribbean islands, looking at the status of the coconut industry in those islands. And they were in St. Lucia, there were two consultants. And after they went around the island, they agreed that we may not get back to the level of Soufrière in terms of processing, but there can be small cottage industries.
Yes.
How do you see that?
Well, I think it's a way to go, because even if we were to revitalize the copra factory as it stands right now, the size of the machinery down there, we don't have the capacity to supply it with the copra that we need. So I think my personal opinion from my experience is to have a smaller unit which can be supplied with the production we have ongoing right now.
And I think that's the way to go. I remember just last week, Friday, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, cited the why and the reasons why we should get the copra processing plant in Soufrière reopened.
Yes.
And of course, there are many challenges, and we need to look at those challenges for the way forward. But there is room for the processing of coconuts back here in St. Lucia.
Definitely.
We are due for a break. We're getting to another segment. So when we come back, we're going to discuss the replanting program. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Smart choices when you shop lead to happy, healthy families when you eat. Always choose fresh local fruits and vegetables from producers you can trust, packed with all of nature's nutrients, fresh from your local farmer. St. Lucia's fruits and vegetable producers meet every government standard for health and safety with fresh local food products straight from the ground to your plate. When you choose St. Lucian grown produce at your local grocers, you choose a healthy lifestyle for your entire family.
For my vocal, I eat local. What's in my dish? Green fig and saltfish. Buy fresh, eat fresh. Yeah!
St. Lucia's farms produce an abundance of fresh quality fruits, vegetables, and ground provisions. Highly nutritious and incredibly tasty. Eating right together when it's most important. Healthy families, Buy fresh, eat fresh.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. I am speaking with Mr. Barry Innocent, who is responsible for the coconut replanting program in the Ministry of Agriculture. Barry, now the Ministry have realized, based on the watermelon production, the demand, that's the way to go for now. I mean, so we can look at the program in two facets. Mm-hmm. One for processing of coconut oil, and of course for watermelon. Where's the project now, the new project with Toyota? Can you give us an insight in that new project?
Okay. The project, at first, we were looking at a target of about 3,000 sprouted coconuts, collecting 3,000 and distributing 3,000. As it stands right now, we've shifted. We've given ourselves a broader target of 5,000. Right now, we have already collected about 5,130 nuts. Thank God for the extension officers who helped tremendously with that, and Mr. Ronnie Pilgrim and Cardi that also helped tremendously with that. From the 5,113 that we've actually collected and assorted, we have actually distributed about 2,934 nuts. Mm-hmm. In phase one, we were working with the Extension Division and Cardi. We worked side by side, but the extension officers were responsible for gathering the nuts and getting it to Cardi, and Cardi was responsible for distribution. In phase one, we gathered about 800 nuts, and which went through Cardi. In that same phase one, extension by itself collected and distributed about 334. And then in phase two, to speed up the process, because I only came on this project in beginning of November 2013. Mm-hmm. So to speed up the project, we decided to do some PSAs because we realized there were many farmers out there that had nuts on the ground on their farms, actually, just wasting away. So we thought, and our good minister thought that it would be wise to allow these people to have some economic impact. Mm-hmm. So we decided to buy it from them, offer them for us to buy it from them at $2 per nut, which is an attractive price, so that they would be able to at least collect all these nuts that are wasting away, sell it to us, and get some kind of an income where they can support their families and words to that effect, or activities to that effect, which worked quite well. We got our greatest collection during that time, and we got about 1,800 through that mechanism. But all in all, like I said before, for distribution, we've distributed about 2,934 nuts so far. So we're close to our target of the 5,000 distributed. In addition to all of that, we are also looking at other sources, outside sources. As you might know, there's the lethal yellow disease out there, and it's called lethal because it's very lethal. Lethal yellowing. With lethal yellowing, it takes 3 to 6 months for it to, once it infects the tree, for the tree to eventually die. Now, when the ministry thought about the amount of farmers, when you drive from Viewfort Highway all the way to Grosley Highway, the amount of farmers and people you see selling coconuts along the roadside, the ministry thought it was prudent to get some lethal yellow resistant varieties. We were trying to get some from Jamaica, because we understand Jamaica had some semblance of plants that had shown some kind of resistance. But Jamaica couldn't supply us at the time, so we endeavored to get it from Mexico. As it stands right now, we are in the process of getting it from Mexico. Now, there are intricacies about that, because we are hoping that these cultivars, when they reach here, would serve us as a form of proactive activity that would help us in case the lethal yellowing come to St. Lucia. Antigua has lethal yellowing, Jamaica also has lethal yellowing. Antigua is not far away. It just takes one Lead plane to get it here, and we don't want all these lives to be affected. So we've endeavored to do one thing, at least do some form of preparation in case it reaches. There are many schools of thought on that, because as with the common cold and the flu, which are viruses, lethal yellowing is caused by a bacteria. Initially it was called mycoplasma, now it's called phytoplasma. But like the common cold virus, it has a tendency to mutate. So there's still this small chance that it may be a strain that may or may not be able to withstand what we imported from Mexico, which has proven to be resistant to Leaf. But nevertheless, we are at least making some sort of preparatory mode of action. And we're hoping that it would stand. All right? And so as it stands right now, that's what we're doing. And things seem to be going quite well. We hope to, when we collect the remaining 5,000, and then we get from Mexico, we'll be able to make a very wide and numerous distribution of these coconuts to the island, to farmers, to schools, hospitals, all over the place.
But let me ask you, did you all, before that program was conceived, did you get the farmers to be involved in terms of, was there dialogue with the farmers for them to realize, okay, that's the way they want to go, or as opposed to going to the processing? I mean, was there any dialogue?
Well, through the extension division, you know, the extension officers is the ministry's main interface between the ministry and farmers. Based on their reports, based on what they have reported from the field, on their discussion with farmers, and even if CADI also, their interface with farmers, it was concluded that, one, farmers are not so inclined or oriented towards getting the tall coconut trees, but more the dwarf. And the fresh coconut water industry is what is attracting most farmers because of the high returns on it. And I don't blame them, it's a high return on it. And the report is out there is that farmers have shown interest in the fresh coconut water industry. The
reason why I asked that, because I remember before that program came on stream, CADI had a number of plants available for distribution at $1 or even less.
Yes.
And that stayed at CADI for many years. So that's why I wonder if there was a PR.
Well, it's not there right now.
Yeah, whether there was a PR on that first, okay, and whether farmers now realize, okay, that's the way they want to go, and that is why the ministry is moving that direction, okay. And in terms of percentage, what percentage of those farmers out there are also willing to go the processing way?
Okay. Well, we have not done any statistics in any form that is sufficiently accurate to make a statement and say this number of farmers have shown interest in processing and this number into fresh coconut water production. But nevertheless, the reports from the ground, like I said to you, we have a greater number, a much greater number of maybe 60 to 70% of farmers that are more inclined to the fresh coconut water industry, and that's understandable when you consider the price of a fresh nut compared to the price for copra. Right? But nevertheless, the ministry understands the importance of the coconut oil, and the ministry is in dialogue and communication with Ministry of Commerce to look at different initiatives towards rejuvenating some form of copra manufacturing.
Because I wanted to ask.
Before you continue, but investigations has to be done. We have to get engineers on board. We have to look into it properly, do all our proper research before we can even take certain actions. We must be able to make informed decisions.
Yeah, that's what the point I was making, because I'm wondering, for example, do you all know with the people like Mags that are producing coconut oil and others, the cottage industry, do you all know what the capacity in terms of copra they would require for processing?
Well, we don't have that documented right now.
Well, hold that. That's pointed because we are due for a break. We're moving fast and furious. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Family time is a healthy time, and a healthy family eats smart. Local fish and seafood from fishermen and farmers that you trust with your family's health is always fresh. Choose fresh seafood because it's packed with nutrients. St. Lucia's fish and seafood producers meet every government standard for health and safety, high quality, fresh local food products straight from the fisherman to you. Choose St. Lucian fish and seafood at your local grocers and choose a healthy lifestyle for your entire family.
I use fresh local fish right there from the fisheries department. Eat fresh, buy local.
St. Lucia's fishermen produce an abundance of fresh foods, highly nutritious and incredibly tasty. Together when it's most important. Healthy families, buy fresh, eat fresh.
Welcome back to the program. Barry, the million dwarf nut, that's another thing we need to talk about, because people out there, you hear grafted coconuts. Coconuts are not grafted.
They're not.
Okay, all right. When they say grafted, because you talk about a process for grafting for other tree crops like oranges and mangoes, okay, and they bear very, very early.
Right.
With the coconut, it's a dwarf coconut, which means it bears very early and short.
Yes, this is a like, typical example of a dwarf coconut. You know, there are some major differences between a dwarf and a tall. The dwarf nut will be more rounded, like this one here, right? More rounded. Whereas the tall, you'd have sharp ridges.
Correct.
Right? That's the main way you'd know it. But nevertheless, with the dwarf, you get less copra. With the tall, you get more copra. You get about 100 grams of copra from the dwarf. And then you get about 60% to 100% more of the tall. Right? The thing also is, what we have in St. Lucia is a lot of cross. It's not really a true Malayan dwarf. There are a few pockets of it, but we mostly have cross varieties. The dwarf takes about 3 to 5 years after planting in the ground, where it starts to bear, but it reaches its full productivity at about 6 years, whereas the tall takes 7 to 8 years. All right, that's the main thing. But something interesting I need to say. What is a coconut and where did it come from? All right? First of all, the word coconut. The word coco came from a 16th century old Spanish Portuguese word, coco, which means head. It was called that because when you look at the nut, the dry shell, it has a feature like a face, like 2 eyes and a nose. So they call it the coco. That's why it got the name coconut. But a coconut is not really a nut. A coconut is a drupe. A drupe is a fruit with a thin skin, a fleshly outer layer that covers a stony structure in the center. So a coconut is more a drupe. An example of other drupes would be the common plum and the cherry. A nut is, botanically speaking, a nut is a fruit that has a hard pod, which within it contains one fruit and one seed, and where the fruit doesn't have to be opened for the seed to be released to the world. Now, coconut doesn't have a pod, so it cannot be a nut. And these are some of the few of the mysteries of the coconut. But other interesting things about the coconut is, do you know that during World War II and in Vietnam, when the doctors ran out of the intravenous solutions, they used coconut water, or what they call drips. Right?
It's also used as electrolyte in batteries.
Very good. It's also a very tremendous sporting drink.
That's right.
It has double the amount of electrolytes than the normal traditional sports drink, but it has half the amount of carbohydrates. So it has optimum hydration and the perfect amount of carbohydrates. It is called the tree of life in some places because every part of the coconut can be used for food, drink, fiber, fuel, and a lot of things can be done with it. Coconut is the only fruit with the amount of water, that amount of water. It differs from all other fruits because of the amount of water it contains. So there's some very interesting things about the coconut plant. Okay,
let's look at the agronomic practices for coconut. Going back many years, as you mentioned earlier, I don't think we had any pure stand coconuts as such. There were few in the isolated areas where, they were grazed, animals were grazed on the coconuts, right? Yeah. So you can call these kind of pure stand, but it was still not pure stand because cattle was being grazed on them, okay? Yes. But I'm talking about now the reduction in production of bananas. Yeah. If farmers now have to go back into replanting the coconuts, it will be more, again, maybe more pure stand, maybe using a nurse crop, afterwards it'll be pure stand. Is there a regime, a fertilizing regime for the new replanting program that you're going to? So farmers are now going to be restructured their way of thinking agronomically?
Yes, the project involves, or includes, I should say, training programs, both for extension officers, since they'll be interfacing with the farmers, and also for the farmers themselves. Trainings will be done so the farmers are well trained on the right cultural practices. For example, quite often I drive around and I see coconut trees and the spacing they use.
Correct.
You know, a coconut tree, if intercropped, should be at least 35 feet spacing, square. If it's a pure stand coconut, it should be maybe about 40 feet square. But I drive around and I see it's closer than that. Now, because of the netted root, it forms on top of the soil. If you plant it too close, then it can actually cover the ground and prevent you from doing any form of interplanting, you know. And the other issues with, for example, with the fertilizing also, that the farmers have to be told and really trained as how best to fertilize and how best to fertilize, irrigate, and just all the different agronomic processes that's necessary for ultimate production. Because like I said before, a 1 acre farm of coconuts, pure stand, if it's not properly managed, will only give you about 1 to 2 tons per acre. But a well-managed farm, 1 acre, would give you about 5 to 7 tons. One coconut tree with poor management practices will only give you 30 to 75 nuts or coconuts, I should say, per year. But a good, well-managed coconut tree will give you about 100 to 120 coconuts per year. So there's a big difference in terms of how you manage it and what happens. So we're hoping that as a little later on in the project, we'll take both the extension officers and the farmers with that training so that this is ensured that this aspect is taken care of properly.
Are you looking, right now you have the cocoa on
Yes.
which is kicking some steam on the
Yes.
market. And
And
I
it's
know
others.
there are other persons out there who want to go that way too. Of course, I'm sure you will have more farmers with the FARs parking by the roadsides and selling the nuts, okay? So the increase in coconut water production is going to be on the rise.
Right.
How are you going to cope in terms of how are you are going to, is there going to be some dialogue between, you know, the process, the people like Glococo, the farmers that are out selling? How are you going to, you know, handle that process?
Yeah, the plan is to have dialogue with them, hopefully to form a fresh coconut water producers association or grouping. We plan to do something like that, to organize them. Further to that, we hope to have discussions with TIPA to look at export of the fresh coconut, because I know Jamaica is ready the fresh coconut water export. In fact, in Jamaica, they're ready icicling it and selling it in chillers and freezers to America and places like that. So when the fresh coconut water starts to take greater heights, we'll have to look at exporting and other forms of value added to make it even more interesting to the customer.
Any final words, sir?
Well, I just want to encourage the public that let's support the local farmers. If they're going all out to supply you with fresh coconut water, considering how nutritiously potent it is, please buy from the local farmers, please buy local.
And then, of course, I think I would like to stick a pin here by telling the youngsters, the students, put aside the soft drinks.
Yes.
And drink coconut
Coconut
water.
water,
It's
yes.
healthy, and of course, it can be used as a sports drink based on what
Yes.
the
It has amino
electrolytes
acids, it has the vitamins, it has the minerals, of everything
That's
we
correct.
need. You
So
know?
I think that's the need to go.
Yes. And we also want to encourage people out there to look at the whole industry of the fresh coconut water in terms of icicling it,
Yes.
bagging it, and stuff like that, and make some money.
Well, Barry, I want to thank you for being on the program. I wish
Thanks for
everything goes
inviting me.
well with the program. I think it's an exciting program, and I know farmers are going to come up to the level and to increase their production.
But we forgot one thing though. Coconut
Quickly.
also has aesthetic value to beautify our country.
Okay, thanks again for that. You have been watching Agriculture on the Move. I want to thank you, the viewers, for viewing the program. I want you to call in the Ministry of Agriculture for any further information you have. Check with your extension officers for more information. Thank you for the NTN for production and ensure the Ministry of Agriculture is involved in everything that we do. Thank you again. I am Phillip Sydney saying goodbye and see you again.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.